So here we are again, and I've got this drawing here. I actually like it. I like it a lot better than the last several that I've ripped into. But once again, it's not about not liking the drawing. It's just about, what am I going to do with it? Here it is on this sheet of paper. Am I just going to leave it like it is because it's really nice? Or am I going to try to make something out of it? And there's some that I leave alone because I think they're really nice, and some I'm going to make something out of it. So here we go. I'm going to try to make something of it. Make something of it, Gil. And I don't know. I think we're going to do a fairy today. Fairy. So that's pretty much what we're doing. So I got a story to tell. Stick with me. This will be relevant to something in the world, if you tough it out. Back in junior high school, I was at gym class or something, and there was a group of guys that were always together. Like these three guys that were pretty much inseparable, and they walked up, and one of the guys says, "Hey, guys, I got a joke," and he looks around. Got a joke. So we all knew it was a dirty joke because, he's looking around, doesn't want to get caught telling this joke. So we gather around to hear this dirty joke. And so he tells this, it's like a story joke, and it's long-winded and strange and doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And then it has some kind of a punchline like, and this is not the real punchline, I'm just going to make this up, but said some kind of punchline like, and then she threw the rocking chair down the stairs. Huh? Get it? Now, I'll cut to the end here for the sake of some amount of brevity. This story had no punchline. The joke was, it was a practical joke to get you to laugh and pretend you get it when you don't get it because there's no joke. Okay? So him and his friends, they were in on it. They made up this ridiculous story that had no meaning whatsoever. And then they go around and they tell you that it's not only that it's a joke, but that it's a really, really dirty joke. And then they ask you if you get it. So he tells the story, and all the guys, we're all kind of like, what? And we don't get it. And then one of his friends, which should have been a clue, one of his friends says, "Oh, I get it. And of course he didn't. He was just in on the prank. And he says, "Oh, I get it." And then he goes, "Oh, that's dirty. Oh my God, that's the dirtiest thing I've ever," And then the rest of us are going, "What? I don't know what you're saying." And so then one of them goes, "Oh, you know what? They don't get it because they're virgins. That's why they don't get it." Okay? Now here's the crux of the prank. Okay? You're going to feel threatened by this guy saying that you're a virgin, which at that time probably most of us were. I certainly was. And but people don't want to have the reputation like, "Oh, we've spotted the virgin in the room." And so almost immediately everybody in the groups just went, "Oh, I get it. Oh, no, I get it. No, I'm not a virgin. I get it." And everything. They rushed to claim that they got the joke when they didn't, because there was no joke. The guys eventually revealed that that was what they had done days later. Okay? But in the meantime, this joke went around the school and got told and retold and totally slaughtered. The whole story was completely different, and until eventually some guys going, "Hey, I got a joke. The rocking chair fell down the stairs. You're a virgin." And things like this. And so this went around and around, and the whole point of their gag was to try to see if you really could pull off a Emperor's New Clothing kind of scenario where you could get an entire society to pretend that they see something that they actually don't see, on the assumption that the guy next to me sees it very clearly, so I have to pretend that I can see it, or I'm going to look stupid. So that's what they were doing. Now, I had a secret advantage over everybody else, and my advantage was I'm stupid. Now, I went through school believing myself to be stupid, less than common intelligence. And I think, looking back from the perspective of a 50 guy in his 50s, I realize, oh, I was just too young. When I was in 5th grade, I was a year younger than everybody else in the classroom. And I was probably a little slow for that. I should have been in 4th grade. I should have been at least held back a year or whatever. But I didn't know that back then. Kind of a useless realization now. But the practical upshot was I got very accustomed to not knowing what was going on. In 5th grade, the teacher would be explaining something, and she'd say something, and I would suddenly understand what we tried to learn about in 4th grade, but I had never understood up until then. But then this new material that she's trying to tell me in 5th grade, I don't understand. And then it went like that all the way through my graduation. It was always like that. I never was on the same page with everybody else in the classroom, which, was clear when they tried to, have you go up in front of the class and do a thing on the chalkboard or something. So, I had a reputation for being dumb. Everybody knew I was dumb. Everybody talked to me like I was dumb. The teachers treated me like I was dumb. And I'm not saying all that to feel sorry for myself. And, at this point in life, it makes no difference. But the thing is, you do get used to saying things like, I don't get it. And like kind of nobody expected you to get it. It's like, of all the people in that circle standing around, even if there was a really complicated joke, I probably wouldn't get it. If I was in that age group. So, and everybody knew I was a virgin. I was not the cool kid at the school. And so, when of all the people that were threatened and going, oh, I'm not a virgin, I get the joke, I get it. I was the only one that just stood there and went, yeah, I'm a virgin. I don't get it. And it really didn't trouble me that I didn't get it or whatever. I just couldn't. So, but what it gave me was an objectivity that nobody else seemed to have, where I could stand back and instead of trying to figure out the joke or trying to convince everybody that I knew the joke or, trying to tell the joke to other people, which everybody was rushing around to do. It was like a panic-stricken thing. Like if I don't go out and accuse other people of being too stupid or too inexperienced to understand this joke, then they'll know that I am, right? And so people were just rushing around trying to tell this joke in almost a level of panic. And I wasn't doing that because I had no investment in being perceived in some other way. I knew if I went around claiming that I was not a virgin, people would just laugh. And so I wasn't even going to try. And in fact, I was a little church boy, and, if I could convince you that I was experienced, somebody would go tell my mom and I'd be in trouble. So I wasn't going to try. And so where was I going? So, okay. I kind of figured out what the deal was before anybody else did. And I was like, this isn't a joke. This is a prank. And I realized that, yeah, these people are just trying to manipulate us into pretending we understand something. And then that's how it turned out to be. And Now, like I say, being behind the rest of the class, that sucked in school, but it's kind of an advantage in life to have that sort of background, um, because there are so many circumstances that are just like that story, where something comes up and nobody knows a damn thing about it, and everybody's panic stricken to be the first one with an explanation. To be out there, just telling everybody, oh, I get it. It's just like something comes up in politics, or we got this COVID-19, or some other thing. The Chinese do something, the Koreans do something, Trump does something, and then everybody knows, I know what happened. I know what's going on. I know what the CIA is up to. How the hell do you know what the CIA is up to? But, you know, that's something I never felt compelled to behave that way, or to run around trying to tell everybody in the world, I know what's going on, because I don't know what's going on. And I think sometimes the rest of my peers have grown up in an environment where you're expected to know what's going on. You're expected to be smart, and you're expected to be wise and worldly and experienced, and be able to say, no, if you believe this, you're stupid, or whatever. I never feel any urge to do that. Some part of me just kind of is accepted being stupid, even though I look back and I realize, okay, I wasn't actually stupid. If I'd been in fourth grade, when I was 9 years old and I'm sitting next to 11-year-olds, it wasn't fair. Right? It wasn't fair. I should have been in a room full of 9-year-olds. I realize that looking back, but there's something just kind of imprinted on my mind that still says, you're a little dumb. and I've always got that in me, and it's strangely, as an adult, it has come out to be a bit of an advantage, and especially, I think, in dealing with this virus, because I've watched my most intelligent friends, and I've got all the smart people. That's you guys. You're watching. But all of my smart friends believe it. See, Jason just said mentioned the Illuminati, and Derek, thank you. I've got some very, very smart friends who actually believe in the Illuminati, and I'm not trying to tell you you're dumb. I'm trying to tell you you're smart. Oh, I'm not dumb either. I know. But I'm used to the sensation of not knowing. Not knowing doesn't create panic in me. When you introduce a new thing and say, this, and the rest of the world goes, seems to go, I know everything about that. When you never heard of it, it just came up. This is the first time. But all of my friends have gone through these cycles of saying, I know goddamn well this is a weaponized virus, or I know well, that Trump caused it, or the Chinese inflicted this on us, or Trump inflicted it on the Chinese, and then it bounced back on them, and it's like, I know. You don't have to know. Just relax, take a breath. This whole thing's stressful enough. It's not on you. Nobody's gonna turn around and hate you and unfriend you because you don't know how this disease works. Or if they do, they're not worth your company anyway, because none of us know. Nobody knows, and that's okay. We'll learn. We'll find out. But yeah, I've got good friends who are panicking, or just reacting. And I know the frustration, that comes of wishing you could fix it. I'm supposed to be able to fix it. Those of you who have been parents, your kids look to you to, fix it, mom. And so you feel like you're supposed to be able to fix it. And well, you can't fix it, because we don't know what the hell's going on. And it's probably also a good thing I've never had kids, because I didn't have to fix stuff quite as often. Although I was the boss at a number of places I worked, and I had to fix a lot of things there. But anyways, that's my rant. I hate this quarantine. I hate it as much as anybody. I'm really kind of losing it, but I'm not losing it because I'm supposed to be smart enough to solve this problem, or to tell the world. I'm supposed to get out there and tell the entire world what's going on, so that you see, or so that you don't think for 1 minute that I was too dumb to see through the facade. Whatever. Just relax. We're in this for a while. I wish we weren't, but we are. We were talking the other day about the fact that they could come up with a cure right now, and the distribution would take so long that we're in quarantine for a while yet. Possibly a year. I mean, if they had a vaccine this minute, I think it would take a year before all of us got it, and maybe much longer. Somebody wrote me something long. If you're insecure, whatever reason, as a kid, it gives you a better perspective on life when you're older. I was a total nerd kid, and it taught me to laugh at myself as an adult. Yes, it's like that. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's like that, and I mean, your childhood follows you through the rest of your life, because you can't help it. I mean, it's what you're going to compare everything to from now on. You'll pick up other experiences and you'll compare those as well. But you're going to carry that. You're going to compare. I don't know. You get in trouble with the cops or whatever. You're going to compare that to your teachers or to your parents or to whatever. How fair they were, how that kind of thing. You can't help it. So I've made a fairy, and I've given her some wings now. I was a big fan of Brian Froud. I didn't know anything about him, but I was. We had a little bookstore up in Prescott, and when I was a kid, here I'll back up a little bit. Okay, one day when I was 10 years old, I went to a yard sale and I bought the paperback of Conan the Barbarian for 10 cents, and it was the first one in the Lancer paperback series. So Conan's fighting Thak, the ape guy, and so I would just sit and stare at that for hours. I never read it. Back then, didn't occur to me to read it, because that's a grown-up book. But I would just stare at it and try to imagine the stories that were inside of it. And sometimes, my favorite Conan stories are the ones that I created in my head before I ever read the book. But eventually I read it. I was about 12 then, and going through puberty, and here's this amazing superhero that can handle everything, and he gets the girl, and he fights monsters, and I just appealed to me on so many levels. Not just the incredible artwork, but the incredible story, and it was a load of fun. And I went down to this bookstore. See, I'm back to where I started. I went down to this bookstore in downtown Prescott called the Bookworm, and I went in there and I asked if there was stories like that, and they directed me to this shelf, and there was a shelf. It was like 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide, and it had every science fiction and fantasy book in the universe. was on this 4-foot by 4-foot shelf, and it was just amazing. That was 20 times as many books as I was expecting. And so they had all the Conans, and they had all the Edgar Rice Burroughs, and they had a few other authors, Andre Norton and stuff like that. But there were a lot of things that had Frazetta covers on them, and made me aware of the whole idea of illustration. That's doing artwork like this for a living, and it triggered a lot of desires in me. And then one day I wondered, is there such thing as a book of Frank Frazetta art? And so I asked. Well, sure enough, the bookshelf standing right behind me, where I was coming in for weeks. I was coming in just staring at all these books. I would buy a couple. But Jeff Jones was another one, very, very big in that era, and a big influence on me. Jason says, "You're my Conan." Thanks, Jason. You're my Deja Thoris. Anyway, so I asked if there was a book of Frank Frazetta art, and they said, "Yeah, right there behind you." And so here's this shelf full of art books, which I had never turned around and looked at, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And so there were several art books, but the only art books that were there that were of a fantasy nature were the first Frank Frazetta, Fantastic Art of Frank Frazetta, and a book about the art of Brian Froud. And that was all I knew about him, was this book. But I bought the Frazetta book first, but I looked at this one and bought these. Froud, of course, is the artist responsible for Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal, the whole look and feel of all of that. And I really, really loved that. There was also, I started reading a lot of things. I was reading those things, but I was checking out things from the library, like Greek mythology and Roman mythology, and then I learned Celtic mythology, and then I was like, what is this? What is Celtic anyways? And then I realized Brian Froud stuff is very Celtic. And I was like, oh my God, so Celtic is, practically just fantasy. So yeah, I'm looking at, before I sat down here, I flipped through my Brian Froud's fairy art thing, because he's awesome. That was his baby in Labyrinth, the little baby in the striped pajamas. That was Froud's kid, Toby. And I saw Toby at Comic-Con. Actually, his table was just about right across from ours, down a couple. He was running the Froud booth at San Diego Comic-Con, and he was pretty busy signing autographs and stuff, but his parents were coming. There was a time slot when they were coming. I was like, oh, I'm going to go get their autograph. And then when I looked up, it's like, oh, it's 2:00. It's time. And there were 10,000 people. And I was like, oh, it's never going to happen. And it didn't. Froud is the bomb. Yes, I knew Jeffrey Catherine Jones on Facebook the last couple years of her life, which apparently were not a pleasant couple of years, but she was on Facebook a lot. I don't think she did any artwork during that time. But yeah, so that's me blithering on about fantasy art, Frank Frazetta, Jeff Jones, Brian Froud, COVID-19 and being a stupid teenager. That pretty much sums it up. That's my world. I'm still a bit of a stupid teenager. I haven't really developed a great deal beyond that. Like I said before, I really liked this drawing just fine. There just wasn't much to it, wasn't much going on. So I don't feel a real strong urge to, change her arm position or put clothes on her. God, no, I'm just going to leave it. Leave it like it is. Fairies are naked. Clothing gets tangled up when your wings when you're flying around. I love this white chalk. It kind of not just gives highlights to things, but sometimes just really softens things. You can go over something and just kind of lightly, instead of fading into the background, into the black, sometimes you can just fade something into the light. So, if you wanted sense of sunshine and stuff, you could get a nice shimmery, I don't know if it's showing up on my computer screen, but it is nice. I liked this model a lot too. We used her a lot back in the days. I hired her to come over to the house and pose for me, so I've got some photos that are more warrior woman-like than the ones I've been working on. She is gone now. She's gone to a better place. Sedona, I think. So that may be it. I'm sure I've gone on for, well, I haven't quite gotten 30 minutes. I'm 28 minutes. Interesting chat. Thank you. Yeah, Boris Vallejo, yes. I got all the Boris Vallejo books too, when the ones that were available when I was that age, and they were. I felt the same way. I felt the same way even since, even in my teen years. I definitely felt that they were too photorealistic and didn't have the oomph that a Frazetta painting had. A Frazetta painting could really just carry you away to another world, and a Froud painting could, even though there's much less realism, still it would take your mind away to another place and make you see those little movies in your head, and you hear the sounds and smell the blood and smell, whatever you really were trying to transport it. And then the Boris ones were, they look like a photo shoot, they look like just what they were, which was, he had a photo studio and some props and had his friends come over and flex, and he was also so much more successful than I ever was as an artist. So I can diss him all I like. I still respect him immensely as in terms of his talent. I'd love to meet him. I've never met him. I used to know his son-in-law. Not his son-in-law, his stepson. Boris married Julie Bell, who had a son, Dave Palumbo, by a different marriage, by a previous marriage, and I knew him through another forum that I belonged to back when Facebook didn't exist. And tell us what you're drawing next time. No, I will not tell you what I'm drawing next time. For two reasons. Reason number one, I pulled this piece of paper out of that box over there, right behind the computer screen. I pulled this out of that box 5 minutes before I turned on the live video. So I did not know what I was doing until I sat down and looked at it and said, yeah, I don't want to muck it up. I have this big empty space right here. What am I going to put in the big empty space? Well, why not a set of wings? And so off I went and put a set of wings on. If I think about it too long, it will lack something in spontaneity. I'm going to loop that back to my story, in my childhood story of accepting the idea of not necessarily knowing what's going on. There's something fun. People have told me, well, why don't you hire a model, to do heroic fantasy? If you're trying to make fantasy art, why are you using these life drawings? The life drawings aren't interesting. Why don't you hire a model and you could pose her the way you wanted to, and then you could make whatever picture you wanted. Well, I know that, and I do that, okay? But the whole idea of this is the challenge of looking at this picture of a girl just sitting there on a chair and saying, I have no idea. Sorry. I have no idea what I could possibly do with that, and it's like at one moment your brain kind of freezes and goes, there's nothing you can do with it. It's just some person just sitting there going, and then you're like, okay, I got to fire it up, and I've got to, what can I do? How can I fill that space? What could I change? And so, that spontaneity and that flash of creativity happens when you accept not knowing. When you start off saying, well, I know exactly what I'm going to do, I think you're less likely to be creative than otherwise. The other reason I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'd really like you to tell me what I'm going to do tomorrow. So, if you like, it could be like the sketch off. We could sit down with a blank sheet of paper, and you could say whatever. The sketch off. Sketch off, for those of you who aren't familiar, Jason's been involved in the sketch off before. We get up on stage, we have paper like this on a board, and we turn around and we look at the audience, and the audience says, do Conan the Barbarian meets My Little Pony. Go. And we have 15 minutes to turn around and make a work of art. and then we auctioned it off for charity, and it is a hoot. And we always get the artist guest of honor at the convention involved in it. One time it was me and Jason, and I think it was me and Jason and Larry Elmore. And Larry was at the beginning of the thing. He was just like, "Oh, this is stupid." He was also a little grumpy because he's not a morning person. They had this at like 9 a.m. and but he warmed up to it and he had a really good time. He told me later on that this was really fun, and I wasn't expecting it to be fun. He was like, "I was going to be a good sport and tough it out, but I didn't think it was going to be fun." And it was really fun. And we had Ken Kelly. Ken Kelly refused to draw with us, but he participated in the coming up with the ideas and stuff like that. And who else? My brain froze, and I don't remember who else. But we've had different artist guests of honor involved in that, and it's really a hoot. So we could do that. You could have a Larry Elmore fan. Yeah, me too. Huge. Especially back in the early '80s and everything was kind of like, that was the career that I envisioned for myself. When I graduated high school, I'd already been submitting portfolios to TSR, Dragon magazine, and getting rejection letters. But that's all part of the experience. So I had been sending portfolios out, and I kind of had this map in my head that was like, okay, I'm going to do some free art for some fanzines and some things like this, and then I'll get some art into some really low budget role-playing games and magazines, and I may pay $5 or $10 or something, but I'll get started, and then I'll work up to the bigger magazines and the bigger games, and pretty soon I'll be doing TSR, I'll be doing Dragon magazine, I'll be doing the cover of Dragon magazine, and then all the paperback companies will come after me and go, hey, can you do the cover for the paperback magazines? And then I'll be rich and famous. And Larry Elmore appeared on the scene about the time I was thinking all that, and his life followed exactly through that exact same track. And I went to work in a factory. But, enough of my sad stories. I've been on for 35 minutes. And I have been told on very good authority that I am boring as hell after 30 minutes. So we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It was really fun, and I hope I see you again tomorrow. Why not? 2 o'clock, unless somebody tells me a better time. All right. Bye-bye.